Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jim and Sam Town Square. I'm Scott King. Jim and Sam fans know me from the Forbes articles, and I'm joined, as always, by multi-Emmy award-winning television producer Chris Cangilla. This episode recapping week 3 of May 2024. Chris, how's it going? We had a very guest-heavy week. Gonna break it all down. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Yeah, it was different from last week, right? Last week we had just not so many guests, a lot more of them. And then this one is a lot more guests, but we still got our good chunks of Jim, Sam, and the rest of the guys.
We did. And so Jim was on the road, kind of
Right.
Here's some road stories to start the show with Sean Donnelly, who sounds like a character. Was he on the show? I'm trying to remember. I feel like he might have been a little bit ago.
Possibly, yeah.
But we'll probably keep hearing more about him as he's on the road with Jim. And one of the places they went was a theater in Pittsburgh. And I love this. The person, either running the bar or the kitchen or a manager is obviously a huge fan of the show, or Jimmy. They named some drinks after him.
Yeah, there were some Chip references and some other characters that Jim had. So yeah, it was really cool. And I think a caller, brought those to Jim's attention, which Jim didn't know about, right? He didn't know that. He said, I would have mentioned it on
he didn't
stage
know.
or something. So they really liked that. But I thought it was very funny and kind of mean in a way. Sean Donnelly went out and got some coffee for Jim and himself. And he came back with a cold brew that Jim likes. And it wasn't from a well-known facility. It's more of a mom and pop thing, which I tend to like mom and pop's places a little bit better. But yeah, Jim did not like the taste of it and proceeded to videotape himself pouring it into the toilet. So, but I think Jim went out and got new coffees and probably got Sean one too.
Very, very good video. And something that maybe, I don't know, sometimes we think that things we say might get through to the guys. Heard from Mikey Muscles a little more on Monday. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that was something that we talked about a lot. I had my tinfoil hat on, as like you say, thinking that Mike was on the pay no mind list a little bit. So they went to him a little bit more. And I'm like, I wonder if that got back to them, that they don't talk to Mike very much. But I did see, and I think it was Miguel. Miguel's got a big part of this episode because he's given us a lot of good inside information that he's gathered. But I did see that Montone had a prior engagement on Wings Night. So that's why he wasn't able to join them. So it wasn't a diss at all.
Right. But we did, there was more of him in the new role as they did the great switch this week for a while longer, where he was getting some more guff. You had thought that maybe he was set up to fail. He was, they were ribbing him a little bit. I don't think it ended on Thursday, right? Last day for the
the great switch ended on Thursday, and they ended it with telling Mike, thank you for your service, Mike, like they tell any great military mind. They kind of put Mike in a place where he doesn't excel, and everybody's roles were kind of put back into rightful balance, if you will. And he was fine with it. Yeah, I think I read a little bit more into it than normal. I do think that they think that Mike has a certain set of skills, and pretty much that's the lane he sticks in.
Speaking of certain skills, Troy's really become like a guerrilla videographer with his iPhone. You go back to the Taylor Swift old house in New York, interviewing fans by it several months ago, and now he finds a guy who's kind of a legend in New York, the guy who did the looking for a girlfriend or the perfect woman flyers 10 years ago, has resurfaced doing the same thing, and Troy went right at him and had questions, didn't he?
Yeah, and they were giving him a hard time thinking that he was a tough, you're being mean and crazy and, people going after it. Troy just asked some questions. Hey, buddy, what are you doing? Really nice. Oh, you're the guy from last time. What's going on now? He was in your name, and you're on all radio stations, all those kinds of things. That's just a good storyteller, if you will, that's shooting some video. So I have no issue with how Troy was out on the street.
Yeah, good storyteller, good interviewers, trying to be a bit of an influencer, capture the pulse of what's going on in New York. I love it.
Absolutely.
Troy's the man. And speaking of another guy who we often feel is the man, Jim Norton, gets off on the wrong floor at work. I remember maybe in our, early after we started, there was kind of this rap that Jim might need a handler. He was making like these kind of mistakes all the time. He hasn't made them for a while. There's a lot of very interesting, hilarious things, but he gets off on the wrong floor. He's been working there for 20 years.
Yeah,
So,
I think
there's something caught in his head too. I think that didn't help.
All right, let's just think about this. Before Nikki, Jim was all about Jim. Everything that Jim had, he had to worry about
Oh,
was about
right, right.
himself. Now he has to worry about stuff his wife is doing, things she might have said before he leaves, and so his mind may not be all the way. It's together. He's still sharp. He's not like anybody running for president. He is just maybe preoccupied with stuff that Nikki has. So maybe he just got a little forgetful. And then they talked about how challenging it is. And it's true. Some elevators don't always go to all the floors. So he had to go all the way back down and then come back. But he was comforted and he was distracted, I guess, by a song that he downloaded while he was in Montreal with Nikki. Lanka is the
Yeah, I think
artist,
it's
I think.
Lanka. Yeah,
Yeah, and it was a little bit of an earworm, but I'm thankful that I don't even remember it at all today. So I'm very happy.
it sounded like a lullaby for children almost, but
Yes.
I did enjoy it
It's
honestly
like
as
an
well.
Apple commercial or something. You could
Yeah,
definitely see that.
you could see it be kind of a trendy commercial like that with some
Hey,
hipsters. Yeah,
before we go too much further away from the core group of guys, I do want to bring up something that I saw, and I think you enjoyed it as well. Was Troy? They started talking about Troy's goatee, right? And it got to be so funny that his goatee is getting longer, and people, I think everybody hates it except for Troy. And they were wondering, does it smell? Remember this part?
I do remember this part. Yes. Travis tested it out, and he kind of let Sam off the hook for putting a kibosh on the hug. It did not smell all bunched together, tied up.
Yeah.
But Travis is going to have to smell it later. I hope they hold him to us. I hope this is not a bit that everyone gets off and forgets about.
Yeah.
But if you watch, Jim got an amazing video on Instagram. He Troy brings Travis in for like an embrace, a nice bear hug while Travis smells it. They're both cracking up.
Right.
It was a great video.
It's a
I
little
loved
bit
it.
of a, I'm sorry to interrupt. It's a little bit of the payoff for the Jim hates tournament, right? But the thing is that Troy didn't lose that. Montone did.
Right,
So
right.
there's still, if we're going to be true to it, Montone needs to hug Travis a little bit. But anyway, yeah, it was a really good video. And, I don't know if Miguel is going to be satisfied with this because he was hassling Sam about the hug.
Montone should have to like re-help because Troy, he said it only takes a couple minutes to tie it up, but he's also concerned about like getting to the airport doing it. So I think Montone should have to help him do it. That could be
That's
Montone's
a good
punishment.
punishment. Yeah.
Get
And
his
that's
hands in
nothing.
that goat
Yeah,
hasn't been washed for
absolutely.
like weeks, have to get in
Ugh,
there.
yes.
Also, getting back to Jim
Yeah.
getting to work. We heard last week that Nikki's definitely in his head as he gets to work. He forgot his credential, his, whatever it
Right.
was, key fob to get in last time.
Exactly.
So his card. So that's he is going to have these mornings. I wonder what else is going to happen to him.
Exactly.
Uh, we had Hotdog join the show. There was a lot of hot dog talk last week, and this from a production standpoint. They obviously go overboard and trying to razz him. It is amazing, but he also always kind of screws up. So it was kind of even to me, the give and take, because it was short notice that the guest was coming in earlier. He had decided he had 15 minutes to set up. Is 15 minutes to set up several cameras too long or about right? I think it's
I
probably
mean, that's about right, I
yeah.
think. I think, it's a pretty fast thing. I mean, if you're not doing any lighting, which I don't think he was putting up any lighting, the camera's setup is in line. But I'm not a huge fan, as many people know that listen to our show. So in this segment, Troy Kwan was my hero. Boy, he was nonstop giving a verbal beating to young hot dog about all the things he's supposed to be doing. He's kind of acting like the DP, the director of photography, making sure everything is right and getting this angle and this. And hot dog was screwing it up and being lackadaisical. And it was funny because Travis even said, couldn't we get the same stuff with just using some iPhones? Those cameras are really good. Do we even need hot dog? And they just were bashing him over and over again. And then Sam mentioned that he's never met anybody so less entitled to have a huge ego as Hot Dog. And I thoroughly agree. So yeah, he was
Absolutely right.
he was
Absolutely.
a mess. And then Andy, a caller, called in and talked about Hot Dog not being very professional. I agreed with Andy as well. And that he's learned everything he knows from YouTube, which we've already decided that he can't make an opinion until he knows what Jake Paul says. So he can't really, learn how to do something. I learned stuff from YouTube. We all do, but there's also some experience and some, working things that you and I both have done that we have garnished our experience and our intellect and how we can do things from that.
Yeah, whether it's Jake Paul or someone else says, Sam says he always gets all his opinions from Twitter.
Right,
So
Jake Paul.
he was
Yeah.
on Twitter. And the other thing I was gonna say is Troy, they hammer him. They look for instances where they can jump on him, but Troy right away saw he had a camera that obviously he's going to use footage from, shooting right at the iPod or iPad, I should say, that had Sam on it blocking Jim's face.
Yeah.
So
Can you imagine
obviously,
if we were
like,
doing our show like this?
yeah,
It's
I
just
know,
not
right?
what you
Totally,
do.
it's not going to work. He does make it easy for people to jump on him, I will say.
And quote, give me the quote that Sam always says about Hotdog and the mistakes he makes. I love this.
He makes every mistake once, but he never makes the same mistake twice, which is awesome. I
So
think
there's a
Hot
lot
Dog
more.
said it was funny. I think Hot Dog said, "Yeah, but I'm starting to run out of mistakes, though." It's
Yeah.
like he's not making
And
starting
and
making
the
this
thing that gave me the most anger, and not really anger because I'm just enjoying it, but just Hot Dog said, guys, I'm doing this out of the kindness of my heart. No, you're not. You're getting paid. Now,
it drove everyone
yes,
crazy.
he's on call for them, maybe out of the kindness of his heart and enjoying being around the guys so he can be there quickly. But the work he's doing is actually work he's getting paid to do, and they shouldn't have to pay for it anyway. So,
Yeah, Sam's like, "Am I going to go to negotiations for the next potential
exactly.
contract?" We'll see. Like, hey, hey, look, I've been coming here like kind of some out of my own heart
Right.
for this
Exactly.
whole contract the last 3 years. Um, no segue here, but Jim saw a legend at his gym that he happens to be friends with. It's cool that like when you see Mike Tyson come on Opie and Anthony, or I've probably been on Jim and Sam in the past. He's like Norton. He loves seeing Jim. I know Jim went to see his one man show before. I think he appreciated that, but he's getting ready for the Jake Paul. I always confuse the brother. It's not Logan. I think this Paul is Jake
It's
Paul,
Jake Paul's the boxer, yeah.
and Logan is too, but this fight is with
I think
Jake.
isn't Logan and I get confused as well. Isn't Logan more WWE kind of stuff?
No, I think they've both done it, but they're
All
both
right,
boxers.
I got completely lost on both of those
Um,
guys. But anyway,
but yes, working out at Jim's. Jim said his gym,
yeah.
and we know Tyson was hitting bags because they're so loud. He said people were saying they could hear it from downstairs. But it's probably where Jim does his what's he been doing? He's
Muay
doing Muay
Thai.
Thai now, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's more
I
of
think
that
he's doing
training. Yeah.
BJJ before
I th
with I think he's
uh,
doing both with
yeah,
the
I
cross
think it's
bars.
for more for the it's probably a gym that caters to MMA type kind of situations where you can
Yeah,
train
combat.
jujitsu and all those kinds of things. So yeah, very cool to see that. And and Jim was very respectful, to see, yeah, I just said hello, but it's so casual. I mean, I'm a kid of the 80s and Tyson was the guy, he was the you could never get beat kind of boxer, never wore socks. I mean, he was just an innovator, didn't have robes on, but come out, just he was so cool back then. So just to be friends with a guy like that and a legend, I think it's very cool. And they're talking about the great photos they have. I think Sam even has one with Mike trying to bite his ear. So very
Yeah,
good.
it's cool to see them lean up to the fight. We know there's been a lot of talk on the show about the fight. Like you got Jake Paul, young, strong. Tyson still like there's still probably very few people that hit harder than Tyson. Was he 55? I
Yeah,
think.
55, 57, something
Yeah,
like
something
that. Yeah.
like that,
So
maybe an older. And if Jake Paul gets caught and are these fights fixed? We don't know.
yeah.
Is if Jake Paul gets caught though, man, he's getting hit by Tyson. But you got a younger guy who's just gonna dance around him, I think.
Yeah, it's gonna be, it's the stamina that the older guys, Tyson's gonna have to work on. But yeah, if Jake's inexperienced and Tyson gets in a good shot, Tyson still hits very hard. So yeah, it's gonna be very cool.
It's
But
something the show's gonna break down. Jim and Sam will break it down. They'll watch it. It'll be a big to do.
yeah, it's on
Uh,
Netflix for all of us to watch and free.
yeah,
So it's
Netflix is
cool.
killing it, by the way. I
Yes,
mean,
they are.
spending a ton of money on everything. Speaking of big to-dos, a big
Yes.
happening, it was interesting that the guys in the show were torn on this. The portal in New York, which I guess it's gone. I guess it's might still be shut down in New York, like
Yeah,
for good now because we can't. No one can have nice things. Um,
exactly.
I I think I sided with Jim and that the New York to Dublin portal they had it is cool and I would check it out because like yeah Sam's right it is like one of these sites like chat roulette like we're seeing each other right now in different places like you could see people in different places it's not a new thing but they set it up it's one thing and people can go and it looks cool I think it's cool.
I think it's cool too. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can FaceTime with somebody in Dublin, but you can't just go and show up at a certain time, and then these people are showing up at their certain time. It's kind of a neat thing, and Yeah, it's temporary shutdown. There were some people and maybe a young lady that was flashing people from United States to Dublin. But they thought maybe if it's back up and running, it would be a good thing for Chip to go. You can't hear anything. There's no audio, but maybe just Chip to be in there would be a funny thing. I agree.
Just making faces.
Exactly. Exactly.
Speaking of Jim Norton characters, Jim Norton himself added to his hate list. And this is like, I can't tell unless they say, "Hey, Travis, you get that?" Like, there's been things where he kind of is getting close to saying he hates, but doesn't. But it did make the list that he hates the NFL. What was the reason this time? He's talked about hating them before.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is that Havis had to reformat. Sam noticed like the list looks a little different. He goes, "Yeah, I mean, we're adding to it so much. I had to change the font and reformat everything, and it's getting quite lengthy," as Travis said. But yeah, so and I'm more on Jim's side on this too. This is about the Kansas City Chiefs kicker, McClure, I think is his name,
Yeah,
that was giving a commencement speech at Benedictine College. And
it's here, right? It's in Illinois, right?
no, Benedictine
Oh yeah, that's
University
guy.
is
Yeah,
here. This is Benedictine College, so a little bit different, but yeah. And we don't need to get into all this stuff, but he's very conservative, very Catholic, and he was saying some things that that people may not agree with. But what I love, and definitely doesn't agree with Jim's lifestyle, and what I love most about this, and this is why I love Jim the most, he defended this guy and his right to speak what he wants to speak, even though Jim disagrees with him wholeheartedly on most of the things he was saying. And that's how this world should be. You should be able to say what you want to say, right? And understand that people have the right to do that as long as they don't stop you from saying the things you want to say. Now you got to be careful about hurtful speech that is going to incite anybody, and that's a fine line. But yeah, I just thought it was a very cool thing that Jim defended somebody that he totally disagrees with.
yeah, I agree. I think Sam made the point. Usually with these things, Sam makes the point that like, but it's also okay for people to disagree with that. We're just, I guess, yeah, I guess the linchpin would be like the punishment coming from the NFL if there is some, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and that's what I think why Jim hates the NFL, because the NFL is distancing themselves. They're kind of not, we don't support this. We're
yeah,
condemning what he's
yeah,
saying. But then they don't really distance themselves too much on the domestic violence part and all the other issues and the CTE issues and all those kind of things. So you can't just do it for certain things. You have to be, if this is, how you're going to police your players, you got to do it that way. You can't just be wishy-washy and all this. And the guy, I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but, he was brought there by a Catholic college to speak to conservative and take it or leave it of what he said. There's a difference between Catholic ideology at times. All Catholics are Christians, but not all Christians are Catholic. So there's a little bit of breakdown on all this stuff. Don't care about this stuff that much religion wise, but if someone group is bringing them in, they know what they're getting.
yeah. And Jimmy doesn't like that the NFL was disingenuous.
Exactly.
Proper term. So he hates people being disingenuous. We got a very genuine, amazing all-time Jim and Sam moments. And the reactions were good. I'm still blown away by what happened during, I believe, some streamer talk. The actual Jim McClure popped in and said, "Hey guys, enough on the Apple TV." I think that's what he said.
I think it was Google, but it doesn't matter what he
Google,
said.
right?
Just
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
And the thing is as we are listeners, the only way that we knew it was really Jim McClure is that Jim Norton was still on mic, so you knew
Yeah.
it wasn't him.
Yeah.
And their reaction, they were thoroughly surprised and enjoyed it immensely and laughing. And it was an authentic moment. You could tell that it was authentic. And hats off to Jim McClure. That was a highlight of the whole week to do
It was
that
amazing.
and to know that there's it was funny and he did it just for the guys and didn't come in and talk to them. Did that and went on his way. It was cool.
Yeah, I was just saying I kind of would have wanted him to come in studio, but I think it's way funnier that it was one
Yeah.
and done. That he did the thing. He did the thing, as Sam said. He did the thing.
Did the thing. Well, that's what Hotdog would say. Are we still doing the thing?
Still doing that thing. Yeah, it's cooler when Sam says it.
Yeah, much cooler.
Much cooler. But McClure is the man. Obviously has a great sense of humor. Absolutely, absolutely hilarious. We are suckers. We are always on top of the soiree. We've always been monitoring it. What I think they said the last one was, what did they say? Four
I
5 years ago. I think it was
it might have
2019.
it was before the pandemic. So
Yeah.
yeah.
We've been covering, yeah, our whole show for over a year. We've been covering it. That there's supposed to be another one. Sam joked that it started the pandemic.
Yeah. And
uh,
my
Go
favorite
ahead.
part of it is these guys that they go, hey, we've already talked about this. We're doing the same break. At least say we've acknowledged that a lot on this show, but they are starting to acknowledge it, like when they're talking about Fios and YouTube TV and
Yeah,
buying a new TV. It's like, we did this. We're not going to do this again. But then they start having questions
do it
again because
again.
it's fun, and they start talking about it again. But yes, talking about the soiree, they're getting all their plans together. They're trying to figure it out. And Sam and Travis goes, it doesn't matter. It's not going to happen,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Troy's still, really pushing for those tomahawk steaks. So we'll see.
yeah. Well, they keep talking about it, and I think something that might push it over this time is Grillmaster Paul keeps calling
Yeah.
to check in and saying he'll bring anything. Jim is like very good to fans of the show. He's given people odd jobs. We hear about it on his website and some other stuff. He's very kind to fans of
He
the
did
show.
our show, and we're just
Yeah, he did
fans,
our show, and I
Exactly.
and I think he appreciates that, and he also likes a good idea. This guy, he likes not having he likes designating things, so he doesn't have to do it. He doesn't have to sit there and grill. You have an expert coming from the best Chester by Sam. So I think it's gonna be great to get Paul involved. I think he's gonna make this happen. I do like when a guy say it's not happening, because I also think that Jim might want to prove them wrong. But yeah, it's time to get the soiree going. Possible new names.
I
So
love these names. Hit me
so
with the new names.
Nortongasm or Nortonite 24. It's the soiree. The soiree
It
hasn't
should be
happened.
the
I still
soiree.
want to be the duck and goose, the duck and
I
goose
like
soiree.
I like the Norton gasm,
Both
obviously,
good
because it's
names.
gasm is the catchphrase of this whole year so far to me. Nortonite, Fortnite. I like the soiree too. It's what it should be and what it was
Sounds great.
always
It's a
discussed.
gentleman's affair, is what it sounds like.
It really should be, with fold up chairs that you may or may not take home.
Give your estimate on when this is going to happen, if it happens.
Okay, I don't. It's not going to happen next week because it's too close, and Jim will panic and not get it right. But if he does panic and try to get it right, it'll make for great radio next week. It's not going to happen the week after because that's the Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, and you may know his June dates, but it'll happen before his next big June date if there is time. So I'm saying early to mid June. What do you think?
I think they could be spot on. I'm going to say within a month. So I think that might be spot on.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it gets done in a month. And we called it here. I can't wait to hear more about it.
Yeah.
Something I didn't really get to hear, perhaps, was we were texting the app. If when you listen to yesterday's show, Thursday's show, the last segment was part of the replay. So, like, I don't know what I missed, and I will say, I know that happened to you. I keep meaning to bring up the last few weeks that the app still sucks.
It
I'm still
does.
having to like type Jim or Jim and Sam to find the show, even though I listen to it every day. And
Right.
also, if you switch devices or open it back up on your phone or
It doesn't
switch
say where it
internets,
was.
it skips. It's not where you had it. And when the app is intact, it's supposed to, you just pick right back up where you were. It's done that in the past. There also has been issues sometimes in the past, but in the layout now, I think it sucks. I think the
It
app
does
sucks.
suck. So I've done a little tinfoil hat. No, there's no controversy on there, or no conspiracy, I should say. But I leaned on our good friend Miguel with Jim and Sam Dank Means, and we've been messaging each other a little bit back and forth.
All right.
And I said to him, did this happen to you? No, he was listening live, and he told me that that the live talk was about Red Lobster closing down. Things I've never heard before, right? And I'm like, because he goes, well, it must have happened on the replay. So I was listening in the afternoon. I did most of the stuff live in the morning, but then I got busy with my day and I had to listen back in the afternoon. So that was the on-demand portion, right? He also said that people on Reddit were talking about it, and he posted to Instagram that, people think it's a massive screw up by T-Dog, who had this BDE after the whole big studio switcheroo. He was back in his
Right,
position and
right.
was really confident. And now, did he make a mistake on the replay? We'll hear about it, I'm sure, on Monday. But yeah, he said that it's been fixed. So if you go back and listen to it, so we have bonus Jim and Sam. If you were
Oh, it's
listening
been
to
fixed now.
on the demand section, Miguel said, yeah, it's been fixed now. So you can go back and you can listen to the segment you missed. So excuse me, just some extra extra Jim and Sam this weekend if you didn't hear it live.
I think I actually did hear it live. Now, my
You
line of
hear
the
the
week is part of this, I believe.
Oh wow, so it'll be new to
So
me
I
because I
think I
didn't
heard it
hear any
live.
of it.
Yeah.
All right,
There's
well
just a
there
little
you
bit of
go.
fast food talk. I'm surprised it was that whole break. Yeah, I
That
couldn't.
whole last break was something different from another show.
Wow, 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 wow. All right, let's get to best guest before we get to line of the week. As I said, packed full of guests. The room just filled with guests all week. Had comedian Ali Sadiq, Stephen Wright, a legendary comedian, another legendary comedian now, Phil Selman, Eric and Eliza Roberts. Eric, the actor, Eliza's wife, who was an actress and his manager. She was actually really interesting. And Derek Black identifies as trans, was the son of a big Klansman, wrote a book about it. I'll let you go
Yeah.
first here.
So just a little bit
Favorites?
of
Thank.
background on these things, and you did a great job setting those up. Ali Sadiq, who I don't think I've heard before, but had a lot of good things talking about prison life and the culture in prison. I guess he spent some time there. That was interesting, especially to Jim because he's always concerned about where you're going to go to the bathroom and how that's done in prison. Stephen Wright, I loved Stephen Wright, man. He was one of my guys. So they reminisce about being comedians and you know how Stephen's act is, as you well know, probably very, very dry. My favorite joke of his is I bought some powdered water and I didn't know what to add. Very good. So he's very naturally funny with his delivery, and I like to hear him laugh. He was
That's
laughing
good.
with the guys and enjoying his time there. So he's fabulous. And he wrote a fictitious novel. He wrote it on his phone, which was just crazy. Can you imagine? I mean, you're a writer. You can
It takes so
writing an
long. I do notes.
article
I
on
do
your
notes on my
phone.
phone. It takes so long.
You write your articles on your phone?
No, dude. I
There's no
had
way.
when I was covering the Hawks for NHL.com, sometimes like say I did my other computer or something, I would do on my iPad, but I think I had the keyboard and that was a pain in the butt too.
Yeah,
I do notes like this.
yeah,
Usually
yeah.
I cannot it take forever to write a whole
That
story.
makes me when I was covering the Bears, there was a reporter for NBC, and she had long nails. So when she'd be typing notes during the press conferences, all you hear was that click, 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 click,
Right.
like drive me crazy. But no.
Mm.
And then going back to the other guest, Phil Selman. I mean, Phil had a girlfriend for a little while. Doesn't have that girlfriend anymore, and he's cut down his bagel eating venue, not doing it as much as he used to. And then Eric and
First, let
Eliza.
me stop you for a second
You
here.
got something on Phil?
You forgot something about Phil Summon, or maybe
Yeah.
you haven't heard this. Has agreed to come on our show.
No way. We're gonna get Phil?
We're gonna get Phil.
Well, that's news to me. Thank you, brother. Excellent. That'll be extremely fun. So
Go right ahead, man. Go right
very
ahead to
good.
Roberts. Gotta
All
tell you
right.
that, Tom.
That's very cool. So yeah, Eric and Eliza, you talked about them. Eric's the actor. She was an actress as well and manager. So sometimes when we have spouses on this show, you're like, oh gosh, why are you
Yeah, I agree.
getting involved here? Why are you talking? We want to talk to the actor. She, Eric had a coma and I think he has some forgetfulness. So she's helped him out. And at least she was in the business a lot and knew a lot about the inside on there. So I didn't mind her as much as I would some spouses that kind of take over for that. But I did find it interesting. He mentioned or she mentioned that Eric's stock in acting kind of does rise based on his daughter, because she's such a big influence on social media. So if she's doing well or talks to him, then his stock rises too. So interesting enough, we play trivia every week with some friends and whatnot. And one of the questions was, which actor has been in the most films of all time? Samuel L. Jackson, blah, blah, Eric Roberts. It's Eric Roberts. He's been in over 800 films. Crazy, huh?
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And then the last one I want to talk about is our Derek Black or Derek Black. I'm not sure exactly how
Yeah.
they wanted to go by the novelist for the Klansman's Son, and she's transgender. And so I just want to say for all these guests, when they have them on there, I admire Jim and Sam so much. They are so good at these interviews. And, the transgender guest, Jim doesn't bring up that he's married to a trans person.
Yeah. Excellent point.
They have had these interactions. They talked about Sam and gosh, I'm Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Sam didn't say, yeah, I've interviewed a married. He just said, yeah, I met his wife. He
Yeah.
doesn't brag about the things that he's done. Jim doesn't brag about the acting he's done to Eric Roberts. That is an incredible trait that I wish I had at times
Yeah,
because
same
sometimes
here.
I want people to know that I'm valued and I've done these things, so I know where I'm coming from. These guys don't have to do that. Maybe they talked about it before and they already knew, but also they don't inject themselves into the interview unless something is along those lines or somebody asks about it. We've heard celebrities come in there and say, "Hey, did you ever work with him?" Yeah, they're going to ask you
Yeah, yeah.
that, but
Or
they
they've
don't
seen the
bring it.
stuff. They've seen the
Yeah,
stuff Jim and Sam do. Yeah.
yeah. So I was amazed at that, and I admire the guys greatly for that. So best guest. Now I have a little more leaning towards Phil Selman now because I know
I
he's going to
know.
be with it. But for me, just because of who I am in my life, Stephen Wright, I just thoroughly enjoyed because I thoroughly enjoyed him growing up and listening to his comedy. How about you?
Well, I have a thought with Jim, and that's such a good
Sure.
point about how they do interviews. They didn't bring up their own stuff. With the trans guest, I think Jim did it. It reminds me of some stuff he said about his comedy. He really make a point and throw the hammer down with his comedy. And something he says is like, I can just always defend what I say. I'm always ready to defend what I say. I can back it up. So I think that if that guest was like, hey, I I take a little offense to that question, Jim be like, well,
Yeah.
I'm a huge advocate. I'm married to a trans
He
person.
has
So
that
he has it in his back
card.
pocket.
Yeah, he has it in his back pocket.
Yeah.
Very, very good point. And that's really good insight on your part is that, yeah, they don't have to do it, but they have it ready if they need
They
it.
have it at their disposal. And Eliza too was awesome because I was thinking that the whole time is like usually you cringe and Eric was so good, you're kind of left going, did he really need her? Yes. A couple points she like the Heath Ledger thing, a brilliant question by Jim. Jim does this whole Sam had got some great questions into, but that was Jim's interview. He owned that interview. He is such a movie guy. He had so many questions for Eric Roberts, and he still worked in the big kind of clickable headline question
Right.
about Heath Ledger. And he started talking about the movie as a whole or something, and
And
she brought him back to, yeah, but with Heath, you were saying, or a couple
right.
times she did that, and she was so good at it and didn't hog it that you kind of didn't really notice that she
Right.
did it. And she had good stuff about the business too, the industry.
Absolutely. And
So
and I think Sam and Jim do a great job interviewing people together. Unfortunately,
yes,
Sam was kind of
absolutely.
handcuffed during that interview because he was at home. So there's a little bit more
Part of it for
challenging,
sure.
like we have here, where we're kind of trying to talk, and
Yeah.
just it happens when you're remote. So he's a little handcuffed on that day. But yeah, they both do such a good job, and I always have admired how they interview people and the questions they ask. And I think that's why people like once they do Jim and Sam's show, they like coming back because they know these guys are just they're not gonna talk about my next project. They'll mention it because that's what you're in for, but they're not gonna really try to surprise you or catch you up or get sensationalized. They're gonna talk
Yeah.
about real stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
kudos.
And you could tell that they love the interview. There's the picture on social media where Eric Roberts is like hugging Jim, leaning over
Yeah,
his shoulder, and they both look like they're the happiest they could be. And he tweeted on, or he said on Twitter, Eric Roberts, that he loved Jim and Sam. So
that's
like,
great. Do you have
awesome.
a best guest?
You know what? I was just gonna say that Phil Selman was shot out of a goddamn cannon this week, and
He was so mean to
that's why I
Sam. I
reached out
loved
to
it.
him. It was his best appearance. He just hammering Sam the whole time. He was awesome. Good stuff about working with Jim.
Right.
And he's gonna come on our show. But I just thought that Eric Roberts is so interesting, so good. Jim was so prepared for that. I gotta give it to Eric Roberts, but Phil was like, I was in awe of Phil Selman this week.
Yeah, of course. And I need to know from Phil, and I'm glad we're going to be talking to him why he's hitting Sam so hard. I just want to know.
That'll be great to ask him. Let's get to our line of the week before we put a bow
Sure.
on it here. I got one as
I
usual.
know we're not going to have the same one if you got one from
Yeah,
the
I think
Thursday night
it's
last break. That's
from
for
the
sure, because
break.
I didn't get to listen to that. But I'll go first, and then we'll let you tie it up. Okay.
Yes.
So, they're talking about the Benedictine college
Yeah.
and knowing the colleges that you go to and kind of always knowing what you're getting into, right?
Right.
And they were talking about that philosophy, and Travis pointed out as an example, he goes, if I worked here, and immediately Jim said, that would be nice if he actually did some work around here. And he didn't even,
Oh
and
yeah,
Travis
I got
didn't
that
get,
too. I
yeah,
almost picked that one. Yeah.
Travis didn't even get to the rest of his point. It was so funny that if I worked here, and Jim goes, that'd be nice. Oh, really
Yeah.
good. How about you?
I think that was Thursday and mine was Thursday.
Yeah.
Uh, this must have been the fast food break because they were doing, yeah, they're talking, oh, this was a good, yeah, I heard this whole thing. So the difference between what people would call fast food and now casual dining or casual like counter service. And they start talking about Red Lobster. And Jim joked that in high school, his nickname was Cheddar Biscuits. And Sam, Comedy Cellar Timing said they called you that because that's what it looked like when they spread them cheeks.
Jeez, I didn't even know. Of course, I didn't hear this, but I love that, and it's so quick. It's rubbing off on him.
It was pretty darn good.
Who asked Sam during the week if Sam was a comedian? Did you do stand up? You stand up?
Yeah.
I don't remember who that was.
It might have been Stephen Wright, but I don't think so. I'm not sure.
And that's a legitimate question now, because I think Sam has really gotten that timing down. He's learned from all these great guys in here. Sam said, no, I just have been around these guys for a long time. But yeah, kudos, man. Sam, well done.
Agreed. Sam's gotten so funny, so quick, just like you, Chris. So good with the lines and the humor on the show and everything you do behind the scenes. Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for watching and listening.
Yeah, well, man, it's just so much fun. It's a highlight to get together with you and talk these things out. You got a little bit more extra of Jim and Sam than I got this week with that flub in the last break on Thursday. But just so you know, I'll do my best to make those Travis Teff level mistakes when I put together the Town Square.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Jim and Sam Town Square. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell, not Doug Bell, so you don't miss an episode.
And if you're just listening to the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it.